The reason that I do IBC is because of this book. It is not because I want to make a lot of money. It is not because I like life insurance. It is not because I had a family member die. It is not because my grandma or grandpa, which is true actually, my grandma and grandpa were jumping from nursing home to nursing home to nursing home, and it sucked. It's not for any of those purposes. The reason I do IBC is because it is the cure to this problem. And this problem is deeply ingrained in how I feel and how I think about the world. Right? I just want to read for you guys. This is right before those pages. This is the whole purpose. And let's say we talked about that, the fact that we're giving away our power to people. Right? This is a realistic scenario, right, for being able to solve the situation. Right? Here's what a plan. Here's G. Edward Griffin, his plan to abolish the Fed. I'm just going to keep reading a little bit. Is that okay? I want you to feel the reason why I do this. All that would be required to abolish the Federal Reserve is an act of Congress consisting of one sentence. The Federal Reserve Act and all of its amendments are hereby rescinded. But that would wipe out our monetary system overnight and create such a havoc in the economy that would play right into the hands of the global elites. They would use the resulting chaos as evidence that such a move is a mistake, and the American people would likely come to the rescue from the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. Okay, this is the United Nations banking system. Okay, we would find ourselves back in a pessimistic scenario, even though we had done the right thing. There are certain steps we must proceed the abandonment of the Fed if we were going to have a safe passage. The first step is to convert our present fiat money, which means what?
US dollars.
Yeah, but what's fiat currency mean?
It's backed by nothing.
Backed by nothing into real money. What's the definition of real money?
Gold.
Backed by gold or silver or something.
Gold.
That means we must create an entirely new money supply, which is 100% backed by precious metal. Now, this is why I also don't believe in crypto. It's not anything against crypto. It's just not backed by anything, right? And it is limited. It's cool. I think that when I went to the Bitcoin conference in 2023, I did a lot of interviews, and every word out of everyone's mouth about Bitcoin is what I believe about life insurance. One is just backed by gold. One is backed by nothing. One has a 1-to-1 reserve ratio. One doesn't. One only goes up. One goes up and down. One, you could never wipe your money away. One, your money could be wiped away in a second. That's why I believe in life insurance, right?
You're saying it's backed by gold. It's backed by gold. You just said?
It's backed by U.S. Treasuries and backed by the life insurance business and backed by precious metals. Look at the end of Perfect Investment. They keep about 12% of their money in precious metals. Yep. And we must do within and also there's a 1-to-1 reserve ratio, which means that for every dollar into life insurance, they have to keep $1 in reserves. Right? So when you read the end of the Perfect Investment and read about how life insurance companies are safe, and then read the end of the last couple chapters about how they're talking about how it is protected and what the balance sheet looks like, reread that part and it'll help you balance out. To do that, we must establish the true value of our present money so it can be exchanged for money on a realistic basis and phased out in circulation. Here's how it can be done. Okay? Now I just want to, this is 16 steps to abolish the Federal Reserve by the number one person that's ever put a plan together, G. Edward Griffin. Okay? And then after, while you're thinking about this, I want you to think about the realistic nature of it. Okay? So while you're thinking, I want you to think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being there's no way this would ever happen, to 10 being like we can do this tomorrow. I want you to think about it from that perspective. Number 1, repeal the legal tender laws, which means that Federal Reserve notes, which are dollar bills, are no longer legal tender for the United States. Number 2 is freeze the present supply of Federal Reserve notes, which means stop printing money. Number 3, define the real dollar in terms of precious metal, preferably in silver. Establish gold as an auxiliary monetary reserve. Restore free coinage at the U.S. Mint and issue silver dollars and gold pieces. Number 6, pay off the national debt with Federal Reserve notes. That means they print $35.5 trillion. and then pay off the national debt to every country they owe money to. Number 7, pledge the government's hoard of gold and silver, which means that they have to hoard gold and silver to back up the currency. Number 9 is determine the number of all the Federal Reserve notes in circulation, which means they have to count all the dollar bills, which means they're going to require everybody to hand in dollar bills, which is what they did in 1928. Retire all Federal Reserve notes from circulation, which means stop all dollar bills, right? Exchange them for dollars at a calculated ratio. Number 11, convert all contracts based on Federal Reserve notes to dollars using an exchange ratio, which means that every contract that you have to pay a mortgage and $3,000 a month using dollar bills, they would convert it, and now you have to pay $2,000 worth of gold instead. All right, this is what you'd have to do. Issue silver certificates instead of dollars. Abolish the Federal Reserve System. Introduce free banking, which means that people can print their own dollars and utilize it for currency if people agree to it. Number 15 is reduce the size and the scope of the government. For purpose would only be to protect the life, liberty, and prosperity of the people. And number 16 is restore national independence. Get us out of the United Nations and the United Nations out of the U.S., and then abolish the United Nations. That's his plan. On a scale of 1 to 10, just call out a number. How realistic do you think that is?
1. 0.
Yeah, 1, 0, right? I would love to do that. It's just hard to do, right? In summary, you have to collect all the dollars, convert all the dollars back to gold or silver, reissue real dollars backed by gold and silver, convert every contract, every lease agreement, every mortgage payment, every car payment, every credit card statement, every single agreement, every life insurance contract would be converted from Federal Reserve notes, which is what a dollar bill really is, to a new currency backed by gold and silver, and then abolish the Federal Reserve, get the U.S. out of the United Nations, which makes absolutely no sense because the United States, right? What do we live in? Florida is a
State.
and the U.S. is a
Country.
and what's another word for country?
Nation.
And the United States was the
Nation.
test. The United Nations was the test. The United States is the test for the United Nations. Okay, so that we can create
One world government.
the New World Order and have one world government. And you know that they already have the Trilateral Commission? The Trilateral Commission basically says that the U.S. is in charge of all of the Americas, North, Central, and South. They already have Russia is in charge of, it's called Eurasia, which is a combination of Europe and Asia. And then they have China is in charge of Asiana or something like that, which is all of the rest of Asia. And really, at this point right now, the U.S., Russia, and China, despite what you think on the news about how they fight with each other, they actually work together. So right now, the U.S. runs this whole part. Tri means what? 3. 1, 2, 3. So
Well,
they've
that's
taken...
Africa.
Huh?
That's Africa.
It's part of here. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay? It's part of here. Right? So all of this situation, even though they make it appear that the U.S., Russia, and China are fighting against each other, they're actually working together to move it from, how many countries do we have? Like 179 countries, I believe, or something like that?
198.
Huh?
They want 3.
They want, well, there are 3 regions, and then they want it to come down to 1. So there will be 1 government, 1 language, 1 currency, 1 everything. That's the goal, because then they can control not just the U.S., not just Russia, not just China, but they can control the whole world, right? And so when you read the case for IBC, the whole purpose for IBC, and the reason that I care about this is because this is a fact. Whether you know about it or not, it's a fact. Okay? Whether you know about it or not, this is a fact. And so this whole purpose is by selecting and training the proper financial professionals to join the ranks of an authorized IBC practitioner, we can build the 10%, which is the tipping point that is required to change public opinion. So in the IBC practitioner course, they call it the sound money solution. And the sound money solution is 3 steps in the sound money solution. Number 1 is to tie the dollar back to gold. Number 2 is to privatize money and banking.
And that would be life insurance policy.
Hold on. And number 3 would be to end Fed. This is called the sound money solution. And the whole purpose of IBC that Nelson Nash the whole mission behind it is that instead of doing all the things that G. Edward Griffin has said you have to do, like you don't have to do any of that stuff. It's very, very hard to tie the dollar back to gold. This and this have to happen in Congress. This and this have to happen through laws that are passed. We have to repeal the dollar bill. We have to collect it. We got to tie it back to gold. We have to basically undo everything that they have already done since 1933. And it's not going to happen unless we have a real revolution, which I'm all down for if you don't know me already. Okay? However, this is something that you can do today that can start making this happen for every American family and business owner. It's by teaching them, hey, I would love to end the Federal Reserve. I would love to tie the dollar back to gold. But that's going to take maybe 50 to 100 years of riots and protests. And just like remember the Stamp Act in 1754. You guys remember that, right? Remember that when that happened, right? Or the Boston Tea Party. Right? What happened in the Boston Tea Party? They dumped all their tea in the harbor because they were doing what to the tea? They were taxing it. So we would have to refuse as Americans to stop paying sales tax, to stop paying income tax, which is actually unconstitutional. And everybody that works at the IRS doesn't pay sales tax if you do. Doesn't pay income tax if you do. No. Okay? Yep, because they know that it's unconstitutional and it's unlawful for you to go to jail for not paying federal income tax. Just FYI. Okay? But to be able to do these two things are very challenging. This is something that you can do now. And the way that you privatize banking is to how privatized banking really works. And you start understanding money. And the way that you can privatize your own banking system, there's only one way to do this. And it's IBC.